From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. We continue our review of shows from the first 6 months of the regime. Today we're going to repost episode 97 of Charles Purcell Presents, all about mutual aid. It aired on April 13th. I believe the original introduction will suffice, so I'll say no more. Just here it is. Over on the other podcast, The Log, we've been talking about mutual aid. At least we've been sort of teasing it, saying, well, we better start talking seriously about mutual aid because it looks like we might need it. So let's devote this episode to that. As we've been doing recently over the last couple of months, sometimes we hijack the Charles Purcell Presents episodes to kind of dovetail with the Log episodes, just because we're in such odd times, right? It's all hands on deck, and we have to do what we can to resist and to fight and to defeat fascism. So that's what we're doing today. We're hijacking Charles Purcell Presents, as we do occasionally. I should say at the outset, I'm not an expert. I'm not a scholar in this area. I've just done my own little research, in quotes. So I'm just going to tell you what I've learned myself, and I encourage you to dig deeper and to, really do the work. But this is just my way of hoping to inspire you, kind of get you kick-started, if you're not familiar with mutual aid. All right, so mutual aid. First, we want to define it, a basic definition, what it is, what it isn't. Why do we need it right now? Well, there are three really good reasons. The regime has shown us that they're not at all afraid to crash the economy. And if and when that happens, we're going to need to turn to each other. And let's be honest, for many folks, the economy is already crashed. It's been crashed for years. A great percentage of the country just can't make ends meet. Let's just be honest about it. The second reason, not just economic, but in the resistance, in our fight against fascism, I've been saying recently that I think maybe it's time to put more emphasis on boycotts and strikes. Because the regime, in addition to gleefully crashing the economy, is also more than willing to use state violence against peaceful protesters. So I don't want to discourage peaceful protesting, mass rallies and marches, but I also feel that we all need to be ready with different strategies if they just start sweeping up protesters and sending them to South American gulags. We have to be adaptable. And I'm really thinking that boycotts and strikes need to be more central to our strategy. And if that's the case, then mutual aid is a necessary, essential component. If we're going to take part in mass boycotts and strikes, we need to be able to turn to each other for support, for economic, for material support. And then the third reason, a mutual aid mindset can sustain us. It can be long-term. We don't know how long this fight is going to last. And even when we win, and we can talk about this in later episodes, but I'd love to see the mutual aid model become a permanent part of what the world looks like on the other side of this revolution. A permanent idea of serving each other outside imposed systems. And yeah, that gets a little bigger. We can talk about that at length later. And then we'll talk a little bit about, the nuts and bolts. How do we do it? So define mutual aid, why do we need it, and how to do it. And then, as I mentioned briefly, I encourage you to take this short introduction further in your own thinking, in your own research, in your own activism, and just in your own life. You don't have to be some firebrand activist. You just need to be a person who lives in a neighborhood, who has family and friends. We're all part of this, whether we want to be part of it or not. All right, so mutual aid, what is it? Well, it's community-based, first of all. It's peer-to-peer, it's face-to-face. It's a model of living where each of us collaborates with our friends, family, neighbors. We share resources. We share services. It's not a barter system. It's not an exchange. There are no transactions. It's not tit for tat. No. You give what you can. You take thankfully. It's not an exchange. You got to get that out of your head. You can't think that way in mutual aid. We're all here for each other. There's no trading. There's no bartering. There are no transactions. So get that out of your head. And of course, we're all here to meet our common needs without relying on external organizations. Now, that's the key. Right now, we are absolutely beholden to our jobs, our banks, our grocery stores, our retail stores. We're dependent on the local police to protect us, the local government to serve us, a whole labyrinth of systems, of regulations and rules and laws, some set by governments, others by custom, by tradition. There's so many institutions that we rely on without even thinking about it ever. We never give it a thought. But these are the very systems that are breaking down and that are being openly attacked by the fascist regime. So the whole point of mutual aid is to meet our common needs without relying on those external organizations. Now, when we win, we can build up from the ashes and we can revive some of the institutions we liked. We can jettison the others. We can reshape some. We can build some new systems. But until that happens, we have to be prepared together to serve each other, knowing that the outside forces we've always relied on are no longer reliable. Mutual aid emphasizes solidarity, equality. You got to do what you can. We all have natural internal biases, I guess. That's what the psychologists tell us. But yeah, you got to get your head in the right space. It's not going to do any good if all the white neighbors get together in their little club, and all the black neighbors get together in their club, and the Catholics get together, and over there the Muslims get together, and then on the next street the bald-headed people get together, and on the next street the pickleball players get together. No, you can't. No, this is not a special interest club. And this is hard for me to say, but even politically, of course we have to share a disdain for the regime. Of course, that's a given. I don't know if you'll find that in the book, so this is just my personal opinion. But other than that, it's got to be a pretty wide tent. We can't be arguing politics in our meetings, in our get-togethers. And as we'll talk about in a minute here, there needs to be lots of face-to-face get-togethers in a program of mutual aid. So, come on, people now. Smile on each other. Everybody get together. Time to love one another right now. If you're going to make a mutual aid model work, you got to do it together. You got to do it in a spirit of solidarity, equality, collective decision-making. Yeah. And this is one of the things that makes it so different from a charity. It's not a charity. There's something else you have to get out of your head. There's lots of sort of deconstruction you have to do in your own mind to wrap your head around what mutual aid is. It is absolutely not charity, where you alone decide, well, as a charitable giver, I'm going to choose a particular charity and I'm going to give my money or my time to that charity. It's a one-way street. I, as the giver, make all the decisions. You, as the recipient, are just to be grateful. Well, you're welcome. Now, this could be a very long discussion, and I won't get into it. In and of itself, there's nothing wrong with charity if you're actually helping people. Bully for you, I'm not going to get into it. But by its very nature, charity has this inherent power structure. It's a class system. It's the giver and the taker. The giver has all the power. The taker has only to say thank you. No, absolutely not. That's not what mutual aid is. Whatever you give in a mutual aid situation, you give without reservation, without expectations of any reciprocity or even any gratitude, although that's nice to have. But we can't be, the two polite little chipmunks, Chip and Dale, just falling all over ourselves, thanking each other. No, this is nuts and bolts stuff. This is getting it done. Everybody comes in, serves however they're able. Everybody benefits. Any decision-making that needs to be done is done by the group. It's done collectively, democratically. So that's basically what mutual aid is. It's not charity. It's not a private club. It's a way of surviving hard times, and hopefully it's a way of living on a more permanent level where we all respect each other and support each other. Now, why do we need mutual aid right now? I mentioned a couple of quick things in my introduction. Again, for many people, they don't have to sit around and wait for an economic crash. Their economy is crashing around them all the time. But for many others, maybe getting along fine, never felt the need to have any sort of support from the neighbors. Always felt pretty strongly about the good old American individual bootstraps thing, and you've done all right for yourself. But under the current regime, we are walking on thin ice, and an economic crash is well within the realms of possibility. A sudden or deep recession could plummet a lot of folks into deep need, while at the same time the regime is destroying the very services that through most of our history, certainly our post-war history, we would have relied on. So yeah, we may well need mutual aid more than anybody's thinking right now. They're happy to crash the economy. The regime is also happy to use state violence against protesters. And if, as I believe, it becomes necessary to make mass boycotts and mass labor strikes central to our fight, then mutual aid is absolutely essential to support us during long-term boycotts and strikes. And then speaking of long-term, as I've said, mutual aid can be more sustainable than any other forms of resistance. We got to think long-term. All right, let's get practical here. How to do it. How to create a successful mutual aid neighborhood plan. Number one, identify community needs. You got to understand the specific needs of your neighborhood and then make sure that whatever plan you come up with is relevant and makes a difference. You don't want to be the gang that doesn't shoot straight. You don't want to just go in willy-nilly with wonderful intentions, but not understanding the real needs and how to serve. Back in the day, I interviewed with Acorn for a job before the right wing destroyed the organization. And I spent a day canvassing in South Chicago neighborhoods. And then I came back to the office and took part in a couple of meetings. And I learned, it was a really amazing day. I learned how they did it. First, they got information from the people themselves. They didn't go in with their plans. No, they went in to ask the neighbors, the people, what do you need? What are your main concerns? And then all the canvassers came back to the office, shared the information, discussed how they might best serve the people, what kind of programs. In every interview, with every knock on the door, we'd ask people if they would care to join or be part of it, and they'd be invited to come in and take leadership roles. Yeah, it's fantastic, a great model. And that's what mutual aid is. So, yeah, talk to people, conduct surveys, have listening sessions, have meetings, organizational meetings, directly with community members. We're not Jesus come to save the flock. No, this is participation from everybody. So get your input directly from the members of your community, your neighborhood, family, friends. Get together physically. Don't do it by Zoom. Get together. Hammer out your concerns, your priorities. Look at the challenges. What are the challenges? Is it food insecurity, housing, lack of accessible health care? So, for example, maybe you get together and you find out that many of the residents around you are having a hard time with transportation to get to the grocery store. So you organize a carpool. This is mutual aid. All right, number 2, build the team. And this almost seems self-evident. The strongest team is diverse. You have lots of different perspectives, lots of different skill sets. Absolutely essential for organizing and getting things done. So recruit folks, recruit volunteers, reach out to the neighbors, local organizations that already exist. Haven't talked about that yet, but that's so important. We don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. There are lots of folks already out there organizing, communicating. There are community leaders who might be willing to contribute time or resources. Don't let them have any expectations of leading, because it's really important that mutual aid be egalitarian, a lateral power base rather than a hierarchy. They could be a consultant. They can be a contributor. And then as you're building your team, assign roles. We talk about this a lot over on the log. Do what you do what you can. Take your particular skill set and use it. Specific responsibilities for each individual. Maybe somebody's good at coordinating communication, another at managing resources, another at organizing events. Some are people persons. They're natural sales folks, glad handers, extroverts. Then there are the introverts. Have them stuff envelopes or make the coffee. Everybody serves in their own way. So build your team. So, for example, a retired teacher might volunteer to tutor children in the neighborhood as part of the mutual aid plan. And we keep stressing these face-to-face get-togethers. Childcare is going to be needed. Elder care. Well, I can't come to the meeting. I need to take care of my elderly mother. Some of the simplest things center around just decent, basic care for each other. So, number 1, identify the needs of the community. Number 2, build a good team. Number 3, establish communication channels. Clear, accessible communication. Make sure everybody can participate and stay informed about available resources. Use technology. Don't rely on it too much. We often warn about that here. Group chats, social media pages, email lists, that's all good. That's all fine, but don't rely on that alone. That's not reliable for everybody. Make sure you have really good offline options. Some people have limited internet access. So go old school, flyers, bulletin boards, and an absolute must, you absolutely have to have in-person get-togethers. They don't have to be dry, boring meetings like you have at, your corporate job, but you do need face-to-face get-togethers to share information. Make it a potluck, make it a barbecue, make it a game night. If you want to have good communication in your mutual aid group, you need to see each other's faces and talk to each other. The digital stuff is fine. You can have a WhatsApp group where neighbors can request some sort of help or service, and others can offer. I've got a page in my socials. I got a couple of them like that. The buy nothing pages where people give away what they have extra. Others are looking for things. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with the digital side of it, but please don't rely on it exclusively. Number 4, promote inclusivity. Talked a little bit about this at the top. Mutual aid thrives when it actively includes everyone, especially those who are often overlooked or marginalized. Make sure there's language accessibility. Make sure there's physical access. I've got a friend in a wheelchair, and I think of him often as I'm walking around town in the wintertime when they don't bother to remove the snow from the curb cutouts. When I go to a venue with no ramps. Anyway, I digress. In your mutual aid activities, do everything you can to address those barriers. Cultural sensitivity. It's not easy. There'll be mistakes made. Be patient with each other. But also, do the work. Encourage participation. Make sure everybody feels welcome. Feels like they're empowered to contribute. So, include everyone. And that goes back to our conversation about communications too. So, for example, make sure you have materials in multiple languages. That might not occur to you right off the bat. Oh, I didn't realize my neighbors only spoke Spanish. Sometimes in the burbs you don't know people. Well, in the city too. Everywhere. We don't know each other as well as we should. All right, these are the nuts and bolts of putting together mutual aid. Number 5, organize resources. Physically, efficiently collect, manage the resources you need to do the work. So you might want to create some central locations, kind of a resource hub for collecting donations, maybe food or clothing or household items, because that's what mutual aid is. It's all about supporting each other's needs. I got a friend in Milwaukee here. He's become well known for accepting old lawnmowers that people donate. He's a mechanically oriented guy, Mr. Fix-It kind of a guy. He fixes up the lawnmowers and then gives them to people who need them. Just one guy. That's his passion. It's a wonderful thing. He's become a bit of a local celebrity here in the neighborhood. But take that example times 100, times 1,000. Everybody chipping in however they can. You might want to track contributions, not so you're keeping score, but just to maintain some simple records so you know what's been donated, what's needed, maybe what you want to avoid. You don't want to have a lot of duplication, but you do want to know where the shortages are. So organizing and maintaining records is a good idea. And finally, number 6, foster community engagement. Foster community engagement. So ongoing participation, feedback. You got to keep whatever your mutual aid plan you've put together here, you got to keep it dynamic. You got to keep it responsive, adaptable to evolving needs. Without getting too dark here, but worst case scenario, if it really hits the fan and the regime starts getting violent with us, that might have to be your emphasis for a little while. You got to be ready for that. You got to be ready to move. So a good mutual aid collective will be agile, will be ready to move, adaptable. And it has to be ongoing, right? It's not something you do once and then, we'll get together again in a couple months, see how it's going. No, you want to just keep this thing moving. This has to be a living organism. So you definitely want to host events, organize workshops, like I said before, maybe a potluck dinner, a barbecue, a cleanup day. I've got another neighbor here. We got some great people in River West. I love my neighborhood. They do an every Saturday cleanup. They just walk the streets and, do a general cleanup. It's fantastic. So yeah, cleanup days are great. Build relationships, have some fun, encourage involvement, get out in the sun, get out in the elements. So yeah, lots of events. This is a lifestyle. It's not a hobby. It's not a charity. Think of mutual aid as a new lifestyle. Now, I'll put one condition on that because I always have to remind myself to remember this. Everyone has different abilities and disabilities. Everyone has a different skill set. Everyone has their own personality. And if you're some introvert shut-in and can't imagine turning your life upside down and completely changing your whole personality in order to be out with this group every other day of the week, and if the things I'm describing just sound horrifying to you, I get it. I totally understand. Zero judgment. Just do what you can. If you feel this is important, and you have to step your foot in one day and step your foot out the next day, okay, I'm not here to preach to you. I'm here to inspire and give a few ideas with some real basic information. All right. How else do you foster community engagement? Well, feedback is a big part of the story here. Seek feedback. As you're together with your fellow members, make sure you regularly ask for input from everybody participating. How can we improve the process? How can we address new challenges? What's working? What's not working? And again, don't think of this as that horrible meeting that your supervisor presides over at your crummy, fluorescent bulb-lit, depressing office. Doesn't have to be like that at all. If you have lots of face-to-face with everybody, there are plenty of opportunities to get that feedback. What's working? What's not working? What are the new challenges? How do we adapt? What's next? So there you go. Just some basic ideas about mutual aid. As I said at the top, I'm not an expert. I don't claim to be. I encourage you to do a little reading on the subject. Seek out anyone who might be an expert in mutual aid, have some experience, and then start the work. Get a few people together. It only takes 2 or 3 to start building. So just to recap here, mutual aid is community-based. It's not transactional. It's not charity. It's not hierarchical. It's folks getting together to support each other in solidarity and a good old-fashioned small d democracy. We might well need it if the economy crashes. We're going to damn well need it to support any widespread long-term boycotts and strikes that we decide to implement in our resistance to fascism. And I'm going to say once again, I think that's where we need to go. There's precious little emphasis on that right now. I really, really believe, I can't stress this enough, massive boycotts, massive labor strikes are going to be necessary damn quick. And without mutual aid undergirding those efforts, they won't last and they won't be effective. So get out there. I'll list the 6 bullet points again. Number 1, identify the needs of the community. Number 2, build a team. Number 3, establish communication channels. Number 4, promote inclusivity. Number 5, organize resources. And finally, number 6, foster community engagement. All right, as promised, a quick episode on mutual aid. I hope this has inspired you a little bit, get you started. There are certainly examples of mutual aid programs you could find, learn from. But I believe we're really going to need this to be a big, big part of the resistance. Let's get this thing going. All right. Take care. You've been listening to a best-of episode of The Log. Today, an encore of Charles Purcell Presents from April 13th, episode 97. Find all episodes of both Charles Purcell Presents and The Log at the website, charlespurcell.com, or on your favorite podcast platform. Follow on Substack and Blue Sky. Thanks to our home station, River West Radio in Milwaukee. Peter Donalds wrote and performed our theme song. All right, I love you. See you out there.